What's going on YouTube? Today I want to talk about a basic that we really need to get back to. I'm gonna be real with you guys. This is the truth of keeping multiple tanks. You forget to clean the glass sometimes. This is a calcareous algae due to the aragonite sand in the goldfish tank to buffer the pH to get it proper. But we're gonna turn the lights back off. But I gotta address that. So in last video, I was showing you guys the new 55-gallon aquariums. And if you haven't seen them, hold on. The lights come off in different increments of the day to save energy. Basically 8 hours a day, these two racks. This one comes on first. Maybe I'll change that. Oh, now I remember why I have it differently. The reason this one comes on later in the day is because it gets natural sunlight, and the goldfish actually need that sunlight. It actually gives them vitamins and stuff that they need to live healthy. That could be debatable, but I believe in it. So goldfish and African cichlids are right here, and these are the two 55-gallon community tanks, and this stuff is going to change up, and the Oscar's going over here, but we're not even going to talk about that. These are two quarantine tanks, and one that just is probably going to get shut down and turned into something else. But two 55-gallon community tanks, and I want to show you guys something. I use the Aquarium hang on the back filters in most of my tanks, and the reason I like these things is because one, adjust please, the pump, the impeller is all in the water. So when the power goes out with the traditional hang on the back filters, you've got to prime them because the pump's outside. But guess what? Now the pump's in the water, and I'm going to address the blackbeard algae. But since the pump's in the water, the power goes out, it comes back on, you don't have to prime it, they shoot and start right back up. And that's not a big deal when you only have one or two aquariums. When you have 2, 4, 6, and so on and so forth, it's kind of a big deal. If you guys missed last week's video, I'll put it in the description below because you should watch that to get up to date. But this tank's a little older than the one on the bottom, and the one on the bottom is recovering from an algae outbreak because just because I'm a YouTuber doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. And that timer right there got switched to outlet mode instead of timer mode. So the tank was on for quite a while, leading to a very heavy algae bloom in the water column. Fish are doing great. It wasn't hurting them, but there was one problem with this tank that made me think I need to make a change. Now over here in my goldfish tank, you guys can kind of see it right here. I have an air pump on each side of the tank. There's air stone here, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but please move, guys. There's an air stone there. Same thing with the African cichlids below, one in each corner. The reason I do that is for two reasons. Surface agitation, and goldfish need a lot of oxygen, and with a heavy bioload, I want to make sure oxygen levels are there for the fish, and also the beneficial bacteria that is aerobic, meaning they need oxygen to survive, like me and you. I'm gonna state something real quick. Yes, can't talk. Yes, the air bubbles in your aquarium, like this, they do dissolve, but very slowly. They rise very quickly to the surface, and even though they dissolve, it's not sufficient enough to call it gas exchange. The real gas exchange starts right here at the surface. So when the tides change and the wind blows in the rivers, ponds, oceans, lakes, that rippling effect right there is what causes gas exchange to the max. Because when this rippling effect is going on, it increases the surface area, and with the water overturning, you can see that gas is physically forced into it and is making more contact with the gases in our atmosphere. And I believe oxygen is 20%. I could be wrong on that. Okay, I apologize. The OCD is kind of going into effect with that thing popping off the suction cup. But let me show you something. The real gas exchange is not in the bubbles. Yes, it does dissolve a little. And another good thing, it'll actually take nitrates and stuff and push them out of the water column. And it'll also add water flow into your column of your tank, the water column of your tank. But here's the real magic. You see that right there? That's gas exchange. That's surface agitation leading to great gas exchange. If you don't have surface agitation in your aquarium, you're not gonna have gas exchange, meaning oxygen levels will drop, meaning bad things will happen, and most likely your fish will die. So I got kind of lucky. Down below, the lights were left on 24/7 by accident because of that timer, but it kind of worked out in my benefit. When the lights are on, algae and plants respirate, right? They take in CO2 and they pump out oxygen. Kind of reverse of us. We take in oxygen and then we pump out CO2. So the lights were left on 24/7, meaning the plants were always producing oxygen. It's a good thing it wasn't on timer mode, because the impeller of my Aquarium 75, and this is not a rep or a bash on the Aquarium hang on the back filters. Everyone's got their preferences. I'm going to see Fluval or Aqua Clears or whatever, the C series, whatever it is, in the comment section below. High Door's got something, not High Door, who was it? CCAM's got a great hang on the back filter that just came out not too long ago called a Tidal, I think. Everyone's got their preference, but these are strong filters. This is what I like. But long story short, the impeller got jammed up in here and it stopped doing that. And that is causing surface agitation, meaning this water column was still. And with the amount of fish I have in here, it's about, it's probably about 30 fish in here, but they're all small, so I kind of get away with it. But the bottom line is, oxygen levels would have dropped drastically if it wasn't for that single-celled algae in the water column. So I was thinking to myself, it was probably last Monday or Tuesday, I said to myself, you know what, if it wasn't for the algae, a lot of my fish would have probably died, and I probably wouldn't have caught it in time. So I said to myself, I need to fix that. Let's take you under the hood again. What's up, guy? You know, I'm really starting to grow on this Oscar. He's gonna get his new tank, his own tank, and a couple tank mates. But I went to Petco, and I got this air pump. It only uses 4 watts. Now, I've got a lot of tanks, and a lot of you are probably thinking, why don't you get a bigger air pump that could power a whole fish room? And that's true, and it would be more efficient. But here's one thing: the more experience I have in aquariums as years go on, there's one common thing that I've learned with every tank: equipment fails. It doesn't matter how high tech you go, how much money you spend, equipment fails. Just as refrigerators, vehicles, TVs, or anything else, your aquarium equipment will fail. On that principle, it's kind of like having all your aquariums tied in. A lot of experienced fish keepers like going into a pet store and seeing that tanks are individually kept. They're not all tied in by a sump, or mostly tied in. And the reason for that is, like say here, I've got 255s and 275s. If this tank got sick, if they were all tied together, so would this one. Here's the thing: all these tanks are separate. So if this tank gets sick, my other ones aren't. Same concept. If that air pump goes out, yeah, I could have a backup one waiting. But what if I was on vacation? What if I was away for work? You know, something along those lines. That would be bad. So most of my tanks are medium to bigger sizes, and I don't really mind spending an extra 4 watts on 2 aquariums. That's not gonna break the bank. So I'm gonna play it safe, and this tank and the one below it has their own air pump, which is a little bigger. So does this one. And when he gets his home and the tank below it gets installed, which we're not gonna talk about yet, they'll have their own air pump. Let me show you something interesting. Here's the 125-gallon saltwater tank. I apologize for the glass. I got to get the salt residue off. And one thing real quick. As you notice, we got diatoms. This is a brand new tank. It's got a couple fish in here that have recently been added. So it's going through its life cycles of getting established. So diatoms is a natural phase. It's one of the first steps. The next thing we're probably going to see is a little bit of hair algae. This is all natural. It's nothing to panic over. But to the point, even in my saltwater tank, what is that? In that overflow chamber, I installed an air stone. 2 reasons. Well, maybe multiple reasons. One, more surface agitation. And the fish really don't see the camera much, so they're getting kind of shy. But there's a tang in here. Tangs need heavy oxygen levels. There's also going to be more tangs introduced, and a couple other fish. The higher the oxygen levels with your fish, the happier they're going to be in a healthier aquarium. Not to mention, this is another reason I picked hang on the back filters for this tank, but we'll talk about that in another video. The main purpose with this tank is to show YouTube and the community that saltwater doesn't have to be complicated. I'm going to set up a more sophisticated, so to speak, more proper aquarium with SPS corals and so on and so forth. But this is to show the community that saltwater does not need to be complicated, and you don't have to listen to the industry to have a successful aquarium. So, hang on the back filters are providing surface agitation. Each one of these hang on the back filters are 400 gallons an hour. So it's also adding to water flow, which is beneficial. So it all ties together. But that air stone right there is doing a lot of good. And if something to wherever to happen, these hang on the back filters, yes, the flow would, still go, the flow would decrease. But here's the thing, if the power heads failed, if the hang on the back filters failed, I still have a lifeline, and it's that air stone right there. The key to your aquarium is stability. When you find something that works, keep it that way. Going in and tinkering with parameters is how you kill your fish. Fish are adaptable. Certain fish in certain parts of the world go through seasons. Even the Amazon, they're not as drastic to seasons that we probably know, depending on where you come from in the world. But for example, here in Virginia, I have hot summers, I've got cold, well, lately it's not been as cold, but I get cold winter, I get hot summers, I get moderate springs, and I get nice falls. I got everything. So most of the time, a lot of your fish come from parts of the world that also have seasons. The swings in temperature aren't as drastic, but they still have seasons. I'm not telling YouTube to go ahead and take your heaters off your aquariums, but certain fish need warmer water parameters, and you need to do your research, and you need to acclimate your fish very slowly if you go this route. And I'm not preaching this, but it works for me. So hold the dislikes. If you notice on all of my aquariums, or most of them except for a certain few, like the saltwater tank has a heater for certain reasons, but my African cichlids, my community tanks, my angelfish tanks, they don't have heaters. Why? As going back and forth as equipment will fail, heaters are going to be the number one thing that fail on you in my experience. And I think a lot of long timers, not a year, not 2 years, not 3, but I'm talking 15, 20, 30, 40 years of experience, those people are going to tell you that heaters are going to be the main thing to fail. And a lot of YouTubers on this, a lot of people in our community will tell you right now that they don't run heaters in their aquariums, but this is something you need to figure out if it's going to work for you and the species of fish that you keep. So just because you see Wayne running tanks without heaters, you got to keep in mind, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a long time. Certain fish like rams and discus and other fish that like warmer waters, I wouldn't dare put them in an aquarium without a heater. So do your research and make the best decision for the species of fish you are keeping. Don't go on some guy that you've seen on YouTube and think it's going to work for you. Anyways, guys, I got to do some tank maintenance. Hopefully this tip is going to help you guys and maybe save a tank or two out there. Other than that, guys, I've been Wayne Blaine's Fish World. I'll see you guys next week with a brand new video. If you like the content, hit the subscribe button so you can see future videos. And if you're already subscribed, hit that bell button so you're notified when new videos come out.